After Rudo completes his first job as a giver and Follow awakens to his own power, the cleaners head to the vibrant doll festival in pursuit of the White Crow. Their goal is to track down the creator of the chokers and uncover the secrets tied to them. Will they finally get the answers they seek, or will even deeper mysteries emerge? Let's find out. Let's return now to Tamsi as he entered the room of their boss. He let his hair down, and while showing it off, he said that he wanted to go on a trip, so he was filing for time off. 2 days later, the scene shifts to a town at night. Here, Semiyu entered a bar, and upon arriving inside, she noticed someone familiar sitting at the bar table, so she approached him. It turned out to be Injin, who was intently staring at his choker. Semiyu sat beside him and commented that he finally had a night out, but questioned why he was spending the whole time just staring at that choker. She also noticed that he had gotten the group photo they took recently along with the new cleaner members. Injin explained that Ryo didn't want to be in any of the pictures when Semiyu looked at it. Semiyu then replied that she already said she would be the one to take the photo, and afterward, she ordered the same drink Injin was having from the bartender. When the bartender handed her the drink, Semiyu asked how Follow was doing and whether he had already begun to be physically affected by Rudo's power. Injin replied that so far, they hadn't seen anything yet, emphasizing that they were still anticipating something to happen. If anything, he added, Follow was worried that it was creepy and weird to have named his vital instrument after his friend, but that was the only update so far. They did, however, manage to get an analysis of that power. Follow's vital instrument, named Alan, produces explosions that generate greater force the more stress builds up. It's classified as an offense-defense type, fully defensive until the right moment, at which point it releases an extreme attack. The sticking point, however, is that it can't deliver multiple attacks in succession. Once Follow uses that first blast, he has to rebuild stress all over again. Semiyu commented that the more special a power is, the more weaknesses it tends to have. She also added that she was concerned about the effects this might have on Follow's mental health. She said that since Injin, Zanka, and Ryo all have plain vital instruments, they can fight without suffering from any recoil, which seemed to slightly hurt Injin's pride when she referred to his power as plain. After a moment of thinking, Injin recalled something about Amo's vital instrument and opened up that topic. He explained that she uses her powers without transforming them into weapon mode. Semiyu responded that their boss saw potential in her. She explained that once Amo gains full control and understanding of how to use her powers, they might finally witness a true transformation. This worried Injin, who said he really should pray that Amo never ends up turning to the dark side. Semiyu added that maybe she was subconsciously suppressing her powers, since she came from an environment where she likely had to lock up her real feelings just to survive. Injin repeated the idea that a vital instrument reflects its user and pointed out that this was the reason the user's name is engraved on it. And that's also why, when there's no name on the instrument, it means the user is holding themselves back. He then turned to Semiyu and asked if that was correct. Afterward, Injin also mentioned that he heard Semiyu would be going on vacation for a while and asked if that was an order from their boss. That caught Semiyu's attention, and she asked where is that coming from. She asked what was wrong with taking a break, and Injin responded that of course there was nothing wrong with that, if she was actually taking a break. However, he noted that every time Semiyu takes a day off, it always starts with her wanting to get completely drunk that day. Hearing that, Semiyu commented that she should have known he'd eventually figure that out. Because of that, Injin deduced that Semiyu was planning to write her name into her own vital instrument, so she could look into the future. Semiyu took a sip from her drink and told Injin to relax, because she had already arranged for a substitute receptionist, and added that their boss could look into people like her, so things would be fine even without her. But this news didn't sit well with Injin. Irritated, he replied that wasn't the problem. He pointed out that the reason Semiyu wasn't using her full powers was because of the risk. He expressed concern about what kind of recoil there might be if she removed her limiters and used that to look into the future. As painful as it was to say, Injin pointed out that there might be a chance Semiyu might never be able to see again. Semiyu questioned his idea about her never being able to see again, pointing out that he was overreacting, and explained that if she didn't look into the future for too long, there wouldn't be a problem. She then shared with Injin what seemed to be the reason she was doing all of this. Their boss had seen something. While the scene shifted to Corvus waiting in his room for someone to enter, his face full of anticipation, Semiu added that before long, something was going to happen. In the next scene, August was hyped and excitedly told Rudo that the Doll Fest was finally happening tomorrow. He began handing out the costumes he made specifically for them. Rudo was surprised when August gave a costume to Amo as well, so he asked if she was coming along. Amo happily replied that Corvus had told her she could join and that she had never been this excited in her life. Apparently, according to Rio, Gris, Tom, and Follow wouldn't be coming with them. They were going to help Follow with his training alongside his vital instrument instead. Rio asked Zanka if he had already sparred with Follow, to which he answered that he'd do it once they got back, all while thinking to himself that being gone for just 2 seconds already made him miss all the action. After that, August yelled at the top of his lungs that the day had finally come. He had pulled countless all-nighters just to finish all of their costumes, so he told them to make sure they appreciated every detail. Rio thanked him, while Rudo kept repeating in his mind that his job was to find the white crow that Kuro told him about, the Choker Maker, the Watchman series. Zanka then asked who else was coming with them to the Doll Fest. August replied that Injin was going, Aishia too, and even folks from the South Branch, but they'd be joining them later. He also pointed at a guy and said that the one who felt so out of place he couldn't even join the conversation was coming too. When they turned to look at who August was pointing at, they saw Fu squeezed awkwardly beside a vending machine, which surprised Rudo. Fu let out a nervous laugh and explained that he was currently working with the cleaners on a trial basis, which left Rio, Rudo, and Zanka speechless, while August shouted that he could feel that something was about to go down. In the next scene, the day of the Doll Festival had finally arrived, and we shift over to the town. At a house, a mysterious individual who looked like an enigmatic showwoman was seen coming out from its doorstep. She saw a crow eating some spilled waste from a bucket, and she expressed concern, commenting how terrible that bird's manners were. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Maimo had begun broadcasting to his viewers, addressing them as beautiful, ordinary people. He welcomed them to their grand event. The day they had all been waiting for had finally arrived. It was shown that the city parking lot was completely full due to how popular the festival was. And as cars continued to arrive and park, Maimo continued speaking. He asked his viewers if they want to know why they're hearing his voice at the festival, and then answered that it was because their favorite reporter was the MC for this year. Then, Rudo's group stepped out of their car and readied themselves to go to the festival. Rio was surprised that Maimo was here as well, which made Rudo ask who she was referring to when she mentioned that name, while Injin asked whether they had removed their chokers, and August hurried them along. He explained that once they left the parking lot, they'd arrived directly at the town's main area where the festival was being held. He ran off quickly, leaving them behind, prompting Aishia to shout after him to wait for them. Maimo then mentioned that a special surprise awaited all participants at the end of the festival, so everyone should look forward to the finale. They were greeted by a grand celebration as Maimo called out for the Doll Festival to begin. Rudo's eyes widened in awe, stunned at how massive everything was, and he couldn't help but shout how awesome it was. As he walked around, he looked in every direction, overwhelmed, and commented in disbelief that so this is the Doll Festival. Right after that, the location of the event was briefly shown. They were in the South Ward of Shumina City, also known as Andio, and there was a summit in the area being pointed out. Rudo and company were positioned at the base of it. As they walked, August told them that, of course, if they wanted to experience the real festival, they had to climb all the way to the summit. However, he added, there were tons of booths and displays to check out along the way, so even without trying, they were sure to have the best time of their lives. Another highlight, he added, was all the costumes, while Rudo was clearly entranced, gazing at the sea of people dressed in outfits. His mind returned to the information Kuro gave him, telling him to look for the white crow, who would lead him to someone that knew where to find the choker maker. As he remembered that, he found himself wondering where to even start. He was unsure whether the crow was an actual bird or a person dressed as one, so he mentally spoke to Kuro and admitted that he didn't have a single filthin' clue. August then grabbed their attention and told them that he and his little sister Aishia would be heading over to the official merch, while Aishia told them they probably wouldn't see each other again in the thick crowd. Rio asked Injin what they were going to do then, but he didn't respond immediately, as though lost in thought. She called his name again, and the second time, it worked and caught his attention. Rio giggled and kept trying to say a specific phrase that she said suited Injin, but cutely admitted she couldn't quite pull it off, which irritated Zanka. With a straight face, Rudo asked if she was trying to say the phrase physically present but psychologically absent, which caused Zanka to burst in frustration, making Rio laugh even more. While the three were having their bonding moment, Injin recalled the conversation he had with Semiyu before they left the bar. She told him not to worry and to just go to the doll festival. She said she couldn't leave the office anyway until she finished submitting her reports. She also pointed out that their boss would be at the event to watch the seeing, and that he was currently buried under a mountain of paperwork backlogs. So, she told him there was still time. He should just go to the doll festival for Rudo. Injin had been thinking about it ever since she said those words. In that talk, Semiyu opened up that she's always wondered about something. She pointed out that Rudo was just some random stranger who appeared out of nowhere, and asked if that was the case, why did he even care about him to begin with? We then returned to the present, where Injin was still deep in thought about it. Rudo noticed how serious he looked, and before long, made a decision. He suddenly called out to Zanka and Rio, catching their attention, and once they turned around, he used their mutual understanding of silent conversation to ask if he had told them there was a reason why they came to the festival. Zanka and Rio were momentarily caught off guard, but quickly answered him with the same level of seriousness. Zanka said he remembered, explaining that they were here to locate the choker maker and gather clues about how to ascend toward the sphere. Rio, on the other hand, asked if she was right that perhaps those involved were part of the Watchmen series, and she wondered when they began spying on them through the chokers. After that, Injin told them to listen up. He said they wanted to avoid any kind of fight that might disrupt the festival. If they could just figure out where the choker maker was, their mission would be instantly accomplished. And so, he added that right now, their job was to investigate the crowd and locate the White Crow. As they exchanged hand gestures and nonverbal cues with one another, Amo watched and wondered to herself if it was some kind of ritual. Not long after, Injin thanked them for the conversation, and Amo commented that the cleaners really were incredibly close with one another, while Fu on the other hand seems to be getting uneasy and restless. Amo suddenly remembered something and asked Fu if it was true that he was only working with the cleaners on a trial basis. She followed up by asking why it was even a trial to begin with, and why he hadn't just been made an official member. Fu grew even more anxious but eventually tried to answer, saying it was because no one had actually ordered him to join, which confused Amo even further. Fu explained that when he talked with Corvus, he was asked what brought him to the cleaners, and that he, sounding completely deranged, replied with a spirited "yes, sir," and said it was because he wanted to be bossed around. And from there, he somehow ended up on a trial basis. Even so, Amo still didn't fully get it, but just accepted it anyway. Fu added that even being at the festival wasn't his own idea. He had only come because someone told him to. Amo replied that it's amazing how the cleaners just let him join just like that, then explained that she herself had asked if she could join. She said she was doing it to make up for what she had done, and to help Rudo however she could now. That's why she told Corvus, while calling her uncle, that she wanted to become a cleaner. Then, she asked Fu if there was truly nothing he could do unless someone ordered him to. As Fu listened, he suddenly whispered to himself that he gets it. He said that Amo had never made a single decision for herself that turned out to be a huge mistake, while Amo simply stared at him, still confused. Afterward, Rudo and the group wandered around, and Rio saw a hilariously ridiculous mask that caught her eye. She got everyone's attention just to point out that the stalls here were selling such stupid-looking masks. Zanka scolded her, saying she was too easily distracted, but Rio didn't care and even pointed out that Zanka looked like one of those stupid masks, irritating him even more. Meanwhile, Rudo was scanning the area non-stop, hoping to catch sight of the White Crow, while Injin joined in the teasing. Calling Zanka Little Zanzan, he joked that it was his big brother who'd be buying the mask, causing Zanka to shout no way and demand they keep that mask far away from his face. Unfortunately, the cash register at the stall had already rung, and Injin playfully said it was too late. He already bought it. Zanka demanded he return it, but the seller cut in and said there's no returns. Rio encouraged him and explained that it wasn't every day they got to attend a festival, telling him not to be such a stick in the mud. Annoyed, Zanka said there were way more crucial things they needed to be looking for than some silly mask. But just as he was about to continue explaining himself, something passing by at their side caught his attention. His eyes widened as if he had just seen a ghost. The moment he caught the silhouette of the man wearing what looked like a conical hat, he instinctively snatched the mask from Rio's hands and immediately put it on, leaving both of them confused about why he'd do that, while Zanka nervously wondered to himself what that man was doing here. Meanwhile, we follow the man Zanka was referring to, who was accompanied by two other individuals. The man in the conical hat reported through a communication device that they had arrived in town. A female voice responded, ordering them to take advantage of the event to capture their target. She added that the signs all pointed to this being their true objective. That woman turned out to be Kyoka, and while the voice of a man in pain echoed where she was, she mentioned that their mark seemed to be plotting something at the doll festival itself. As Zanka secretly watched the man with the hat, clearly rattled, Kyoka told the man that she was counting on him to handle everything, even calling him little brother. The man replied, "As you wish," while Zanka, in his thoughts, referred to that man as Goka. In the next scene, Rudo and the others continued their search for their target, and here they spotted a float that resembled a Titan from Attack on Titan. It caught Rudo's attention and made him ask if that was the White Crow, to which Injin replied that it wasn't and said it was just a Titan costume, commending it as impressive. Next, Rudo pointed to another character that resembled Airyu from Blue Lock and asked about that one. So Injin replied that it was just a costume of someone with too much style, then asked what part of it even had bird elements. Rudo pointed at something else and asked about that too, and Injin guessed it was a holy sword that inspired people to say obnoxious things. Excalibur! Annoyed by the costumes, Rudo shouted that the stupid White Crow was nowhere to be seen, which made Rio laugh and comment that his search methods were starting to sound desperate, while Injin told him that if something only shows up when you're not looking for it, then maybe you shouldn't be trying to look for it at all. Also worth noting, Sunraku was here as well. Rio then asked what if the crow wasn't out here, but inside the event hall instead. Injin agreed that was possible, since after all, the main event of the Doll Fest was the Giver Show, which was being held inside. Amo then commented in surprise that they were actually looking for a White Crow this whole time, since she thought they were just looking for the other cleaners. Injin explained that the twins were participating in the show, and they had gone there together with Mildreda and the other cleaners from South Ward, but he doubted they'd be able to meet with them. Fu then turned to He and asked if he thought there was any real reason for him being there at all. After that, Injin told Amo that for now, he thought they should just head straight to the main hall, to which Amo suddenly lowered her voice ominously and seemed to get angry because Injin hadn't told her about the White Crow. That prompted Injin to ask her to please not lower her voice like that, as it was scaring him. Meanwhile, Zanka, still wearing his mask, was deeply pondering what in the world his older brother was doing here. While this was happening, the scene cut to somewhere in the West Ward, inside a small shed. A harsh interrogation light was switched on while two men pinned another individual to the ground, surrounded by Kyoka and her subordinates. Kyoka drew out a kunai, sending a wave of panic into the man, and pointed out that he was just a decoy who deliberately leaked false information to make them think he was the main target. She raised the kunai and added that the information he provided was about the possession of a terrorist device, exactly the kind of tip the Hell Guards would respond to. She suddenly grabbed the man's ear, making him scream in pain, and told him that he was nothing more than a sacrificial pawn. She asked if it didn't hurt, being constantly used, taken advantage of, and forced to bear the suffering all alone. She also told him she was sure he had heard of the agonies experienced in the Hell Guard's prison, which made him visibly tremble with fear. She doubted that he truly wanted to go there just for the sake of the person who had sent him. As she raised the severed ear, she seriously demanded that he tell them what was going to happen at the Doll Festival. They waited for the man's response, and despite the torture he was enduring, he still managed to smile and told them they were too late, because the device that would spin the world had already begun to turn. Everyone had already become dependent on it, and they couldn't survive without it anymore. He added that in the past, the world had lost its ruler. And now, as Rudo's eyes widened while staring at something, the man declared that the one he spoke of would become the world's new ruler. After that, we returned to Rudo's side, where he was already discussing the Hell Guards with Zanka and asked what they were. Zanka pointed out that the cleaners specialize in exterminating trash beasts, then said that the Hell Guards are the opposite. The Hell Guards, he explained, were an organization that hunted human beings. With a few exceptions, the Hell Guards were an assemblage of people who had no powers, but each of them was an expert in fighting other humans, and it didn't matter even if their opponent was a giver. If they perceived someone as a threat, they would immediately act, and Zanka noted that he didn't understand how the raiders were still roaming around freely with the Hell Guards out there. That got Rudo thinking, and he realized they seemed a lot like the apostles from the sphere. Zanka then warned him to make sure that he never got caught by them, which surprised and confused Rudo. Zanka explained that the Hell Guards were also investigating the antagonism between the sphere and the ground. So, as someone from the sphere, if he were caught by them, they would take him in, whether he deserved it or not. Rudo grew worried and pointed out that Zanka said the Hell Guards were here. So did that mean they were after him? Zanka replied that he didn't know, but said his brother wasn't in a position where he'd just be doing standard patrols. Either something had happened, or something was going to happen in this place. Rudo was surprised when Zanka mentioned his brother was here, which also reminded Injin that he didn't actually know about that either. So Injin explained that Zanka's older brother, Goka, was the second in command of the Hell Guards Red Horns Squad 1, and his older sister, Kyoka, was the commander of that same squad. He pointed out that the Najiki family was insanely elite. Injin then asked Zanka to confirm if even his dad was an ex-Hell Guard, to which Zanka reluctantly nodded. Ryo then asked what about his mom. Zanka answered that apparently, a year ago, she became the commander of all the Horn squads in the Hell Guard, leaving Injin completely floored by the level and status of his relatives and shouting that they were downright terrifying. Zanka agreed with that and added that he had already been disinherited by them, so he told them to stop talking about his family and just focus on finding the White Crow. Rudo stared at Zanka and silently wondered why he had joined the cleaners. They continued walking, surrounded by the bustling crowd, and Ryo excitedly pointed out that they were already close to the main hall. They glanced toward the summit and commented that that's where the doll festival would be happening. In Rudo's thoughts, he said that if they really did find the White Crow in the middle of all this, would they even be able to get any answers about where the choker maker was? Then, something caught his attention. An individual noticed they didn't seem to have any raffle tickets. When Rudo turned, the individual introduced herself as a staff member from the Doll Fest named Wing. She cheerfully welcomed them to the Doll Festival, and it seemed this was the same mysterious woman from earlier. Injin looked at her in confusion, so Wing held out what she was holding and said they were tickets. Since they seemed puzzled, she figured they didn't know what was going on. She explained that they were handing out raffle tickets for the opening act of the Doll Fest, a concert by none other than 2 Lily. The moment they heard that name, Ryo and Injin both burst with excitement and surprise, while Rudo looked confused at their reactions. Injin asked to confirm if she meant the 2 Lily, while Ryo asked if she was really here in person and whether the Doll Fest had announced it to the public. Wing answered that they had only announced it yesterday, and that it had already spread on TV and radio. On the other hand, Rudo was completely baffled by all of this and asked what exactly they were even talking about, prompting Injin to yell at him in disbelief, asking how he could be so stupid, since 2 Lily was the biggest star in the ground. She sings, dances, and even does magic tricks. She was, according to him, the master of all kinds of performance art, the queen of entertainment. He also pointed out that they had been playing one of her songs the other day, and that Rudo had even been bobbing his head to it. That hit Rudo, and he remembered it really had happened. Wing then added that one of the Doll Festival's bigwigs had personally requested her to perform, and she agreed. She mentioned she was also a huge fan, and that she was eager to finish up her task so she could enter the event hall herself. So, she encouraged them to go ahead and claim their tickets from the box. Excited, Rio asked what the tickets were for, so Wing happily explained there would be a raffle, and one lucky winner would receive an item that came directly from Tu Lily's own body. Injin shouted "Oh snap" in pure joy, while Rudo quietly thought that he couldn't keep up with what was happening anymore. The three of them all drew a ticket, and when Rudo got his, Wing cheerfully told him he had pulled the last one. The box was now empty, meaning her job was done. Wing called Rudo her little wolf and said he was her lucky boy, and that she was sure great things were waiting for him. Rudo weakly agreed, still thinking that all he was really looking for here was the white crow. But instead of something normal like lucky number 777, the number he got was 666, which we all know is famously tied to the Antichrist or the devil. Wing told him that if he won, they'd call out the number on his ticket, so he should hurry to the stage if that happened. After that, they began walking toward the main hall, as Wing explained that the opening ceremonies were about to begin, so they should get inside quickly. Rudo stared at her and commented that her energy was way too high. As he thought to himself that he felt like he was getting farther and farther from the white crow, Rio was just overflowing with excitement about what was about to happen. When they entered, Rudo's eyes widened as he heard the roaring cheers of the massive crowd, all thrilled for the start of the performance. MC Mimo shouted that they were ready. It was time to start the doll festival. Rudo could feel the overwhelming excitement from everyone around him. And when Mimo announced the opening performance of the year, the Queen of Entertainment, Tu Lily, white, sparkling crows began to fly toward the center of the stage, immediately catching Rudo's attention. He was stunned by what he saw. As the crows gathered together into what looked like a cocoon, Tu Lily slowly emerged from the center, dressed in her extravagant costume and stylish flair, dazzling the entire crowd. Outside the main hall, we see Wing still standing with a smile, holding her raffle box while the crowd inside continued screaming with excitement. Back inside the main hall, Rudo's eyes widened as Tu Lily was introduced in a grand spectacle. After Tu Lily emerged on stage, Rudo immediately tried to get Injin's attention, saying he had seen the white crow. But because of his overwhelming excitement, Injin didn't notice and kept shouting how sick it was to be seeing Tu Lily live. Amo then commented that she didn't understand at all, but said there was a unique scent in the air inside this place. Rudo stared at Tu Lily and thought to himself that she must be the one Kuro was talking about, the person who knows where to find the choker maker. He felt annoyed at Kuro, thinking that he should have just told them her name from the start. That way, they wouldn't have had to search all over the place looking for the white crow. But as he looked around and saw how many people adored her and how famous she was, he wondered if there was even any way they could speak with her directly. On Tu Lily's side, she raised her staff and began her performance by unleashing an intense voice. The electrifying song echoed through the hall, shaking the bodies of the audience, leaving them stunned, thrilled, and amazed. Tu Lily struck a few poses while continuing to release aggressive sounds, causing the crowd to cheer even louder. Her gaze turned serious, and she tapped her staff on the floor, releasing a powerful blast of smoke that enveloped her. The crowd went silent and gaped in awe, but as the smoke cleared, Tu Lily reappeared, now wearing a completely different outfit. A dramatic ensemble featuring a pointed military-style hat, pentagram emblems, spiked shoulder pads, and high boots, giving her a chaotic, gothic ringmaster look. Rudo was shocked by the sudden wardrobe change, prompting Rio to cheerfully point out that she could do that because of her wand, her vital instrument named Lunavis, and added that Tu Lily could also use magic. After changing outfits, Tu Lily leapt into the air, capturing Rudo's attention again. It looked like she was flying, and the ghost and clown backdrops on the stage came to life. Those figures lit up, and so did the eyes of the audience. As the energetic music spread, Tu Lily shouted for everyone to raise their hands, and the crowd did just that, vibing to her song. August was moved to tears from the sheer joy, and even the MC raised his hands with the crowd. Injin and Rio couldn't contain their excitement either, while Rudo remained completely mind-blown by everything happening. Soon after, Tu Lily changed outfits again, and the audience roared once more. Rudo noticed that the song had ended. Tu Lily thanked everyone for coming and said it was a great honor to open this magnificent event, expressing that her heart was full of pride. She then said she offers her respect to this wonderful doll festival, her deepest gratitude to the white crow who once saved her life, and a wish for blessings and smiles for all those watching and the performers here today, while the crowd continued to cheer and shower her with love. She told everyone to now sit back and enjoy the rest of the show. After her speech, Mimo shouted with incredible hype, thanking Lily for that awesome opening act. The crowd erupted in applause, and Injin finally calmed down, commenting how sick what they just saw was. Rudo echoed the same words, still in awe. Amo was overjoyed, realizing that the overwhelming joy of the crowd was the scent of joy she had sensed earlier, while Rio laughed and said that Lily had set an impossibly high bar for the next act. Zanka then jumped in to bring their group back to reality by pointing out that they had now found the one who knew where the choker maker was, and asked how they were supposed to approach and question her. Rudo was rendered speechless for a moment, then quickly remembered that yes, they did have that problem. Injin said that he didn't think they'd be able to talk to her, and Rio agreed, pointing out that they were just outsiders. Rudo then seriously asked if they should storm the stage, which prompted both Zanka and Injin to ominously warn him not to even think about it. Zanka then said that if that's the case, it looks like what they're holding might be their only hope. He pulled out his ticket, making Rudo suddenly realize what he meant. Zanka explained that if one of them wins, they'd be able to get up on stage. Rio, however, asked if they even had a chance to win, since their odds were basically 4 in a gazillion. Worried, Rudo asked what they would do if none of them won. Would they really storm the stage? Injin then considered that since the twins were part of the show, maybe if they got to talk to them, they could also speak with Lily. Either way, he figured the raffle probably wouldn't happen until the end of the show, so he suggested they just enjoy the doll show in the meantime. Zanka pointed out that that's usually why people came to the event anyway. Amo then grabbed their attention by saying that if they were interested in the raffle, she thought it was already starting. They all quickly turned their focus to the stage, just as Mimo began to address the crowd, saying it was time to end the suspense. He told everyone to take out their Lily raffle tickets, because the drawing was about to begin. As the crowd erupted in excited screams, Zanka commented that it was happening fast. Rio noted that the main doll show event hadn't even started yet. Injin, sounding irritated, pointed out that everyone knew raffles were supposed to be done during intermission or at the end of the event, and rhetorically asked if management missed the memo. Meanwhile, Rudo and Amo just stood there staring blankly with poker faces. Then, Lily said she was about to draw the winning ticket. The entire crowd buzzed with anticipation, wondering who the lucky winner would be, as the performer kept everyone hanging with suspense. Nonetheless, the scene kept us hanging even longer as it shifted to the conversation within Red Horn's Hellguard Company 1. Kyoka informed Goka about what they had discovered regarding the terrorist device, to which Goka clarified if she was saying that it was already in circulation. Kyoka explained that according to the man, they were all dependent on it and couldn't live without it. After contemplating for a moment, she ordered Goka to place Andio under immediate lockdown. She said the situation there was critical and what they had uncovered could shake the very foundation of the ground. She then instructed all operatives in the area that their top priority was to apprehend the target, and while removing her choker, she added that from this point on, all communication would be done using the old methods. After that, the story returned to the doll festival, where Lily was just about to reveal the winning raffle number. She lifted the raffle box, and suddenly, all 4 sides of it popped open. However, the crowd stared in confusion because the box was completely empty. Besides Zanka, just as he was pointing out the obvious, something began to glow. Rio, Injin, and Amo all turned toward Rudo, because the glow was coming from him. Rudo was utterly stunned as his card began to shine, and the glow was so bright it could be seen across the entire hall. His friends started wondering if he was really the one who got picked. Lily then pointed at him and said that the winning number would be announced by the lucky audience member holding the glowing ticket, which left Rudo completely thrown off, realizing she meant him. But he hadn't even drawn a number, which made the entire crowd erupt in excited screams. Mimo said he couldn't contain his flabbergasted response, greatly praised Lily, and pointed out that even a simple raffle turns into something spectacular in her hands. Rudo's friends were beyond thrilled and couldn't believe he won. while he himself was shaking from all the excitement. Next, Tu Lily asked if their lucky winner could join her on stage, and as she snapped her fingers, something began to happen to Rudo's body. And just like that, he vanished from beside Oniii-Chan, startling everyone. They were shocked at his sudden disappearance, but their attention was quickly grabbed by the shouts of the audience near the stage and the stunned expression on Mamo's face. Mimo asked if this was another of Lily's magic tricks because the winner was suddenly on stage. He had actually teleported. Zanka and the others were completely dumbfounded. Zanka couldn't believe that Tu Lily could use teleportation magic, saying they knew she utilized magic and such, but this was way too much. Rio, thrilled, called Tu Lily way too sick, while Oniii-Chan, full of envy, called Rudo a lucky bastard. Amo asked what exactly happens when someone wins, and Oniii-Chan explained that they said you get to take one item directly from Tu Lily's person. Despite his jealousy, Oniii-Chan was glad that this event saved them from a few problems. As Rudo stood there while Tu Lily asked for his name and a staff member handed him the mic, he thought to himself that Rudo really did manage to make a deal with the information broker. So if anyone could get information about where to find the choker maker, it would be him. However, still dazed and shocked from the teleportation, Rudo absent-mindedly asked where he was, causing Oniii-Chan to facepalm. Zanka commented that he'd imagined exactly that would happen to Rudo if you suddenly threw him onto a stage out of nowhere. Rio added that with their mission, the teleportation, and that massive crowd, she couldn't blame Rudo for being completely flustered, while Oniii-Chan just thought to himself that this was exactly the kind of guy Rudo was. Over on Amo's side, even though she wore a smile, she ominously asked if Rudo was in trouble and added whether she should release a scent toward that woman. Oniii-Chan quickly told her no and remarked that she was terrifying on far too many levels. In his mind, he cheered Rudo on and told him he needed to push through this challenge. We then shifted back to Rudo, who was incredibly flustered, overwhelmed by the chaos, and tried to calm himself by focusing on the mission. As he slowly and nervously said 666 as his number, he thought about the name Tu Lily and wondered if she really was the White Crow, meaning he had to ask her about the choker maker. But the question was, when could he ask it? He glanced at Tu Lily and wondered if she truly was the White Crow. When he saw the White Crow symbol on her headpiece, he felt even more certain. His attention was completely locked on her as she stared back into his eyes with a strange aura that heightened all of Rudo's senses. Tu Lily noticed his reaction and decided to create a moment just for the two of them. As she waved her staff, she excused them from the crowd and said that to hand over an item from her person, she would need to remove it, and for that, they needed privacy. Tu Lily conjured a bunker of thorns that could only fit the two of them, causing the audience to whisper in curiosity. Oniii-Chan, once again envious, muttered that Rudo was a lucky bastard. Next, we entered the scene inside the thorn barrier, where Rudo was visibly nervous as he stared back at Tu Lily. After a brief moment of silence, Tu Lily finally spoke and asked if he was the son of Alto Surbrek. Rudo suddenly remembered how, back when he was still in the sphere, people used to call him the son of a murderer. They said it was his father's fault that those people were dirty, and that if a father is a criminal, it's only natural for the child to end up the same one day. He also recalled the time he pestered Regdo to finally tell him the name of his father. After pushing persistently, he managed to get it out of him. His father's name was Alto Surbrek, just as Tu Lily had mentioned. Rudo stared at her at first, and just as he was about to respond, he held himself back from lashing out. But with a dark, ominous tone, he asked Tu Lily what exactly she knew. How did she even know that? And was she also from the sphere? Tu Lily noticed his growing anger while he continued to question her, asking if his father was still alive and if he was here on the ground. As Rudo's powers began to activate from his agitation, his aura burst out behind him as he demanded to know what she knew. Tu Lily, however, remained unfazed. After observing his reaction, she began to wonder and said that she wasn't part of any kind of upper management. That confused Rudo, making him lose focus for a moment and wonder what she meant, which puzzled her in return. Raising her staff, Tu Lily loudly declared that she was the queen of entertainment, or at least, that's what people called her. But in her words, she was just a clown with a dream to bring smiles to people's faces, so there was no such thing as up top or down below for her. Rudo tried to clarify that by up top, he didn't mean it that way, but Lily interrupted him again, saying it wasn't possible for her to know whether his father was here for the show, since after all, she had never met him. Rudo fell silent for a moment after hearing that, then thought to himself that he couldn't believe this woman was a total airhead. Lily then added that he shouldn't be asking others whether his father is still alive. Someone once told her that parents are happiest when their children speak to them directly. Outside the thorn hut that Lily had created, the murmuring crowd speculated what could be happening inside. Even Mimo was confused about what exactly was going on, while Injin fumed with jealousy and called Rudo a lucky bastard again.
It should have been me, not him!
Back inside the thorn hut, the conversation continued right after Rudo explained the White Crow. Lily realized that when Rudo saw her performance and costume, he assumed she was the White Crow. She explained that the White Crow was someone special to her. When she was just a little girl, she ended up in a no-man's land and got into a dangerous situation. It was during that time that a White Crow found her and led her to safety. She was so terrified that she couldn't stop crying, so the crow danced in a funny way just to make her smile. From that moment, the White Crow became the theme of her soul. She wanted to bring smiles to others just like the White Crow had done for her, and she swore upon her soul that she would do just that. She then said she supposed she was the closest thing to a White Crow at this festival, and remarked how surprised she was that Rudo was looking for her too, leaving him confused about what she meant by that. Lily explained that a certain friend of hers had asked her to make contact with the son of Alto Surbrek, which immediately caught Rudo's attention. But, she added, it was quite hard to find him. Her friend had told her what he looked like, and that he belonged to the cleaners, but every cleaner she approached just looked at her in confusion. Turns out, the cleaners Lily was talking to were actual janitors who clean rooms and hallways, prompting Rudo to mentally comment that he's pretty sure those aren't the same cleaners. As a last resort, she went to the information broker, who told her that Rudo would be invited to the upcoming doll festival, which made Rudo suddenly realize that this entire setup was orchestrated. He immediately grew concerned and asked her to hold on. If she went to the information broker, that meant she had paid a price. Lily cheerfully reported that she was now completely broke, prompting Rudo to shout that Kuro must have drained her dry. Right after, Rudo was overwhelmed by an indescribable sensation from realizing what had happened, as if Kuro had used him to swindle an innocent woman. Still, Lily added that despite being penniless, the staff had taken care of everything else. She said that the raffle was suggested to her by the staff as well, and was even set up for her, and all that she needed to do was make the cards. After that, Lily invited Rudo to continue with their raffle and said she would now give the gift to the winner, or rather, a special delivery from her friend meant for him. She pulled something out from her cleavage, and from the middle of it, she brought out a choker. Rudo was confused as he reached for it, while Lily explained that the choker was specially made and that his job was to wear it after he stepped off the stage. Then Lily said that she had almost forgotten something and began casting a spell on the choker. It was supposedly to ensure that it would appear different to everyone else, except for him. Rudo was puzzled about what she meant by that, but Lily just brushed it off and said she was merely a delivery girl. She claimed she didn't know anything, not even about his father. The only thing she said she knew was the man's name. Rudo aggressively questioned her claim that she didn't know anything, commenting that if that were the case, she wouldn't be able to say where the choker maker could be found. But before he could finish what he was saying, Lily cut in and said that the only thing she did know was this. That person over there, gesturing as if pointing to the other end of the choker, really wanted to talk to him. Right after that, Lily began to exit the thorn hut, wishing him the best of luck. Then Lily made a grand reappearance and apologized to the audience for keeping them waiting, announcing that their raffle winner, number 666, had already received his prize. Now that was done, her role was also over, so she bid them farewell and hoped she had made them smile. Mimo shouted in excitement, thanking Lily for her most excellent, mind-blowing, and titillating opening act. But before she left, she whistled at Rudo and whispered to him to tell whoever he was going to talk to that she said hello. Lily then bowed and said they'd all meet again, shouting Talemi. Lily disappeared after saying that, while the crowd screamed and cheered for her. Next, Mimo announced that their program had been completely messed up, but apparently, that was fine. Just as he was about to say they should take a look at what their lucky winner received, he was completely stunned by what he saw, and everyone there was equally shocked, their eyes wide open in disbelief. It turned out that what they saw in Rudo's hands was a G-cup bra, and since only he and Tu Lily had been inside the Thorn Hut earlier, they assumed it must have belonged to the Queen of Entertainment. Rudo immediately jumped off the stage, and when he noticed the way people were staring at him, he started wondering what the choker he received must look like to other people. When he reached his group, Oniii-Chan furiously pointed at him while Rudo just began to apologize, saying he didn't get the chance to ask Tu Lily about the choker maker. He remembered that Tu Lily told him to put the choker on after stepping off stage, so he did just that, prompting a range of extreme emotional reactions from his companions. Zanka cringed hard and kept yelling that it was just too weird and audacious no matter how many times he looked at it. Rio burst out laughing. Oniii-Chan, despite being jealous, actually praised Rudo, and Amo clutched her chest while commenting that, so that's what Rudo liked. She apologized, saying she wasn't so gifted. Rudo was left completely baffled, wondering what on earth they were seeing, but he quickly found out when Rio, still laughing, pointed out that he was wearing a bra. The choker then began to buzz, catching Rudo's attention. Oniii-Chan said that Rudo had to explain in exact, minute, and sensual detail what happened behind the curtain. That made Rudo scream in frustration while running away, completely confused and annoyed, shouting that it wasn't like that and telling Oniii-Chan to shut up, while thinking to himself that he still couldn't hear anything from the choker. After getting far enough, he sat down on the ground and commented that maybe he'd be able to hear it from here. He thought to himself that now that the white crow had vanished without a trace, this choker might be his only hope. He started wondering who it might be connected to, and whether it was the friend Tu Lily had mentioned. The choker began to buzz again, so he immediately listened closely and asked if the person on the other end could hear him. The surroundings fell silent for a moment, and then suddenly, the voice on the other line declared that he was the choker maker. Rudo froze in shock and confusion. The person addressed him by his full name and said that he knew Rudo's wish, which brought a look of deep astonishment and unease to his face. This individual claimed to have information about his father and a piece of the Watchmen series. He was then given an ultimatum. If he wanted those things, he would have to destroy the doll festival. While all of this was happening, the scene shifted to the parking lot, where Marij and Mildreda were waiting inside their car. Marij commented that the show should be starting by now. She asked Mildreda if she was really sure she didn't want to watch the twins, to which Mildreda replied that she was only there to give them a ride. Mildreda explained that right now, she was taking care of these jobs so the others could fully enjoy their rare day off. Marij then pointed out that while it was great to care for others, she also needed to remember to care for herself. Marij's choker buzzed, and someone provided her with information. She thanked the person and told them they could now return to base, addressing them as Agra. She also informed them that the cleaning in their area was already done, and they offered to retrieve the remaining items. However, Mildreda stopped her and said they were still waiting on one more status report. She then commented that she didn't know how Semiyu was handling all of this on her own and informed Marij that she would be the one organizing those documents. After that, Mildreda glanced to her side and had a strange feeling. She took a sip of her drink and commented that something stinks, prompting Marij to note that she seemed to notice it too. The smell of high alert was thick in the air. Suddenly, a door opened on Mildreda's side, and several people introduced themselves as the Hell Guard. They surrounded them, and one of the guards pointed a katana at them, demanding to know what they were doing there. Mildreda and Marij raised their hands in surrender. Marij then wondered aloud what was going on, seeing how so many Hell Guards had gathered in one place. With their hands still raised, the scene shifted to inside the main hall, where people were also raising their hands, but this time in excitement. The crowd cheered as Mimo introduced the next performer with their vital instrument. A girl stepped onto the stage, holding a cat-like doll as her vital instrument. When she used her powers on it, the doll transformed and grew in size. It began to roam around the main hall, dropping candies as it moved. While his companions watched the event, Rudo continued speaking with the man who had introduced himself as the choker maker. The words of the choker maker echoed in his mind. The price for the information about his father and a piece of the Watchmen series was to destroy the doll festival. He thought to himself that he needed to find the choker maker to get a clue on how to return to the sphere. But now this random guy was claiming to be him and even trying to make a deal. This led him to realize that he needed time to gather his thoughts. However, when he didn't respond right away, the choker maker firmly said there was no time to waste on confusion, making Rudo shudder. He continued, pointing out that at that very moment, Rudo was already at the scene, and that it wasn't just a coincidence, so he needed to seize the opportunity. His tone became sharper, turning into a command. He said he wouldn't accept any questions. Rudo had to act. He ordered him to do it, right now, immediately. Finally, he said the hall was packed with people and issued an even more unnerving command. Rudo had to wipe them all out. Rudo stood up and looked toward the stage. He saw the same performer speaking. She said that participating in the doll festival had always been her dream. She began to open up, confessing that she had no parents, and her grandmother poured everything she had into creating the dolly she now held, to help her feel like she was never alone. She emphasized that it was her most treasured possession. People in the crowd began to tear up and cheer her on. She added that even though she would never see her grandmother again, she hoped that by performing at the festival, her grandmother's spirit would see that she had grown up. Hearing that heartwarming story, Rudo seriously told the choker maker that he wasn't going to do what he wanted, leaving the choker maker speechless, asking what he meant by that. Rudo repeated firmly that he wasn't going to play his stupid game. He pointed out how this guy suddenly appeared and, out of nowhere, ordered him to destroy the doll fest. Then, clearly annoyed, he asked if he really thought he'd just follow that order. While gripping the choker angrily, Rudo added that he wasn't an idiot. He even called him choker maker and asked if he was really the one behind it all. He said he wasn't so twisted that someone could offer him candy and he'd just go hurt other people. The person on the line expressed disappointment toward Lily, saying it seemed she didn't explain things properly to Rudo. The choker maker apologized and explained that he had instructed Lily not to say more than what was necessary, which left Rudo confused. It seemed, however, that he had been left out of nearly the entire explanation that should have been given to him. The speaker pointed out that there was no more time left, so he would have to deliver it to him briefly. The choker maker said that the hall was full of people, and contrary to what he said earlier, telling him to get rid of them, he now told Rudo that he needed to save them. As this was happening, the scene suddenly shifted to the staircase leading to the backstage. There, a few guards were seen standing watch, so one of them immediately shouted at the approaching group that only authorized personnel were allowed inside. It turned out to be Goku's group, and he didn't let the man stop him from entering. The choker maker added to Rudo that someone in that area was trying to use his chokers for malicious purposes. As we were shown Wing preparing to leave his position, the choker maker also said that the evil bastard he was referring to had been concocting a plan for a very long time. And now, that person had finally found a way to rule the world, which made Rudo wonder what he meant by that. Meanwhile, behind Engine, we were shown Fu sitting quietly in a corner, thinking that he had already mastered the techniques to soften the pain of feeling like an outsider. Rio caught his attention when she called out to him. As he turned around, she reminded him that he had already met the twins before, and now, it was their turn to perform. She invited him to come and watch the act with them. Fu's face lit up upon hearing that, and he immediately went to Zanka's side, cheerfully saying that someone had finally given him an order, which confused Zanka. When they looked around for Rudo, Rio pointed out that he had moved to one side, away from the group, and was now ignoring the main doll show just to enjoy the bra he had acquired. However, it was clear from Engine's face that he didn't think that was the real reason why Rudo had distanced himself from them. Next, we returned to Rudo as the choker maker told him that the person they were facing was using the doll festival as his grand unveiling. That person wanted to announce the reign of a new ruler to demonstrate his power, which left Rudo confused as to what kind of power he was referring to. The choker maker then replied that it was the power to rule. While someone was still performing on stage, we saw the Hell Guards running toward the backstage as the choker maker continued, saying how ridiculous the idea of peaceful rule with no wars or bloodshed sounded. Yet the person they were facing was trying to do exactly that, using his own chokers. Rudo wondered how a choker could be used to rule anything. But before long, something clicked, and the choker maker explained to him that the choker was the most convenient communication device on the ground, so everyone had one, and everyone had become dependent on them. Even those in costume were still wearing them. The choker maker's intended message earlier began to sink in for Rudo, especially now as he added that the previous order to destroy the doll festival wasn't just some random task to test whether Rudo would follow him. As Goku reached the door to a certain room, the choker maker added that to the person they were dealing with, every living human being was merely a doll he could control. Suddenly, someone spoke through the microphone in the main hall, calmly instructing everyone there to be silent for a moment. Upon hearing that, Injin and his companions widened their eyes in alarm as they realized something was off. It was as if the pupils of the audience members had changed, and all of them went silent, as though they hadn't been cheering joyfully just moments ago. We were then shown Goku again, and unfortunately, he had just missed catching the person he was trying to apprehend in the main hall announcer room. The choker maker added that he knew it was already too late. That was why he was now asking Rudo to save the people from that rotten piece of human filth. From the announcer room of the main hall, Mimo suddenly jumped out and landed right in the middle of the stage, praising everyone in the crowd for obeying his command to fall silent, revealing that he was the enemy the choker maker had been talking about. After that, Mimo carefully observed all the people he had taken control of. After a few moments of watching them, he turned on the microphone he was holding and attempted to give the people some commands. He ordered them to clap, which they immediately did. Then he told them to jump, and they followed again. He then tried making them turn to their right, and they all started spinning in that direction. Mimo began to laugh slyly and commented that it was perfect. He pressed what looked like a communications device attached to the collar of his suit and addressed the person on the other end named Felix, asking what the range of his rule was, to which the other replied immediately and called him Sir. Felix, standing on a high place in the Doll Fest venue, explained that it was the same as when he used his normal powers and addressed him as my Lord Mimo. He said Mimo ruled over everything within the range of his microphone's sound. In other words, he now reigned over the entire festival venue they were in, which earned him praise from Mimo. Next, he asked his photographer how the photos were coming along. While reviewing his shots, the photographer said he got a great photo, referring to him as Mimo the news reporter. On the other side, Mimo spoke to someone named Gil and asked what the Hell Guards were currently doing. Gil laughed and said they were still tracking him and mentioned that it seemed like they weren't wearing chokers. Mimo was impressed by how quick-witted they were and praised them, saying how clever they were and how good they were at sniffing out a plot. Gil then asked him if he thought it was the decoy that ratted them out, and said that if Mimo wanted him to take out the Hell Guards, she'd need a raise, to which Mimo responded that it wouldn't be necessary. He pointed out that the Hell Guards would do everything they could to avoid hurting innocent civilians. While he said this, we were shown Goku secretly peeking out from the announcer room. On Injin's side, when they saw the state of all the people in the area, Zanka, clearly creeped out, asked what it was that he was seeing. While observing the scene too, Rio asked if this was part of the Doll Fest, thinking maybe this was the surprise Mimo the news reporter mentioned earlier. She then asked if it was just her, or did Mimo break character. Meanwhile, Injin started walking toward Rudo. We then returned to Rudo, who was watching the whole situation unfold, and the choker maker told him that this was Mimo's rule, that this was his power. With concern settling in, Rudo realized that if they had been wearing their chokers today, they would have ended up like the people down there. The choker maker pointed out that this was the silver lining. He and his friends just happened to not be wearing their chokers today. Because of that coincidence, the choker maker asked why they weren't wearing them, and Rudo explained it was because Injin told them to leave them behind today. August agreed since they didn't match his designs. The choker maker was surprised when he heard it was Injin who said that and questioned why he would do that. Rudo replied that it was because the information broker told them that the chokers were all being listened to. The choker maker paused for a moment in thought and commented, wondering just how much that guy really knew. Suddenly, someone placed a hand on Rudo's shoulder, and it turned out to be Injin. He said to Rudo that to think the prize would actually be the very person they were searching for. After saying that, he turned to the choker maker and said that if he wanted to talk, he had to start by telling them everything. While that was happening, we returned to Mimo, who was still watching the people spin in circles. He asked how long they were supposed to keep spinning, then finally ordered them to stop. After doing that, Mimo declared that if he wasn't mistaken, for some reason, there was a spheroid among them right now. He called out Rudo's full name and sternly ordered him to come up to the stage. Rudo's name caught Goku's attention, making him ask himself what Rudo was doing here. From a staircase leading to the stage, Rudo descended, drawing the attention of the audience toward him. Mimo commented how surprising it was that of all people, Rudo was here at the doll festival, and added that no one told him he would be coming. He recognized him back when he received a gift from Tu Lily, and admitted he was stunned speechless upon seeing him. In the blink of an eye, Oniii-Chan appeared near the stage and struck Mimo solidly in the face with his umbrella, sending him flying and dragging across the floor. It looked like a perfect golf hole-in-one as Mimo's body rolled right into the stage entrance. Oniii-Chan cracked his neck as a warm-up afterward, and a shadow began to appear beside him. Shortly after, Rudo landed there, smashing part of the stage as he did, his face serious and seething. Oniii-Chan caught the microphone that Mimo had dropped outside and said he had heard everything, referring to him as Mimo the news reporter. Rudo, clearly furious, called him a pathetic loser and questioned his desire to be a ruler, asking if he seriously wanted to be someone that cringe. He added that for that kind of messed up garbage, did he really take the feet of the choker maker and the parents that raised him? After a few seconds of silence as they stared at where Mimo had fallen, Mimo suddenly commented that he didn't recall giving him permission to speak. This caught Rudo off guard, and Mimo added that it was strange. He was wearing a choker, yet he wasn't following his commands. It didn't take long for Mimo to notice the difference, and he remarked that now he understood. He asked if what Rudo was wearing was the prize he got from Tu Lily, which visibly surprised Rudo. Mimo started walking out from the stage entrance while saying he understood now. Rudo had been a naughty little thing, calling him Countess. He explained that when a parent is far away, the child is supposed to stay home and behave. Then he suddenly remembered something and casually said he forgot to mention this, with zero awareness or even a shred of hesitation, and told Rudo straight to his face that he was the one who killed his parent. That immediately triggered an intense rage in Rudo, who began to shake with fury, expressing his hatred for the man before him. Right after that, Mimo abruptly changed the subject and asked if they ever felt sentimental over a stranger they had never met in their entire life. If he told them the same story, would they still feel sentimental for him? Especially Oniii-Chan. He pointed out how Oniii-Chan hit him without warning, and asked if that meant he really felt that sorry for Rudo. Oniii-Chan arrogantly replied that he hated to admit it, but unlike Rudo, he couldn't get angry for a random stranger he didn't even know, because he wasn't that nice. However, he added that all that nonsense about being a ruler gave him secondhand embarrassment just hearing about it, so he figured he had to wake Mimo up. He then pointed out that he had confiscated his vital instrument, and asked if now it was true that Mimo couldn't give out his commands to the ones he had under control anymore. After that, Oniii-Chan declared that the doll festival was officially closed. From one of the spiked curves above them, an individual fired a fast projectile in his direction, but fortunately, his reflexes were quick enough that he dodged it by ducking. However, the attacker didn't stop there, because when Oniii-Chan looked at where the projectile had landed, it started moving and flew back toward him, hitting the microphone in his hand. Because of this, it was sent flying in Mimo's direction. As that was happening, Mimo repeated the comment Rudo made about the pathetic and embarrassing dreams, and said that people were far too judgmental when it came to what others were trying to accomplish. He said that maybe his goal was the dumbest nonsense anyone had ever heard, but that didn't matter anymore. The eyes of Rudo and Oniii-Chan began to show concern, and Mimo continued speaking, emphasizing that what truly reigns supreme in this world isn't how smart or beautiful a dream is, but how it's brought to life. At the same time, we were shown the individual responsible for the earlier projectile attack, as Mimo gripped his microphone tightly. In the next scene, the choker maker began explaining how he creates a choker. He explained that to make one, he needs to use his own blood. He said he coats a random cord with his blood, grants it his power, and that's the core recipe for crafting a choker. He added that because he possesses a piece of the Watchmen series, mass production became possible. And since the process requires his blood, Mimo took advantage of it. According to him, Mimo's power gives him the ability to control a person by drinking that person's blood. That's why Mimo has been continually extracting his blood. He's been controlling him, repeatedly forcing him to make chokers. all for Mimo's worthless delusion as a megalomaniac. Injin repeated what the choker maker said, that if Mimo drinks someone's blood, he can control them, and pointed out that this means Mimo has likely drunk the blood of everyone in the audience. He added that it's not just them. It's highly possible Mimo has drunk the blood of every single person wearing a choker, prompting Rudo to ask when Mimo managed to pull off such a stunt. The choker maker then explained that creating a choker requires his blood, and using it requires the user's own blood. He emphasized that to become a registered user, they all had to infuse their own blood into their choker, which made Injin recall that he did the same thing years ago. The choker maker continued explaining that chokers are infused with his blood during production, and the first blood mixed with it becomes the user's blood. He then said that Mimo focused on that combination, refined his ability, and developed the power to control both him and anyone whose blood has mingled with his. Injin asked if his analogy was correct, that Mimo wets the whistle using the maker's blood, then uses that whistle to control the wearers, and commented that it's the perfect example of how nothing good comes from trusting the wrong middleman. He also asked if it was true that the reason Rudo isn't under Mimo's control is because his choker is special. The choker maker agreed and explained that the choker he gave to Tu Lily is one of a kind. It doesn't require the user's blood, but it can only connect to him. He added that because Tu Lily held on to it until now, he's able to communicate with the two of them. Next, he pointed out that Rudo and the others are his only hope, and that only they can destroy this madness. With eagerness on his face to end it all, he pleaded for them to clean up this mess before the entire ground world turns into one giant doll festival. After hearing all of that, Rudo pointed at Mimo and said maybe removing every single choker from every person here would be too much work, but if they could just grab his mic or give him a good beating, this whole mess might just vanish. Rudo took a stance like a rabid dog ready to charge, his outfit only emphasizing that ferocity, and pointed out how Mimo goes on and on about ruling and making that dream a reality. But he trampled on something deeply important to these people, and if he had no plans of stopping that destruction, then he would never be Rudo's ruler. And it wouldn't just be him. They won't let him walk away from this either. Right then, the ones Rudo referred to made their entrance. From both sides at the top of the stage, Rio and Zenka charged at Mimo, each sending in their own attacks that landed with tremendous impact. Zenka pointed out that no one ever told Mimo to lead everything, and Rio commented on how creepy he is for spying on their private conversations. Rudo added that it doesn't matter whether they're in the sphere or on the ground, because this time, as someone who owns a piece of the Watchmen series, and on behalf of the choker maker Gauntus, he would destroy him. As he said those words, we were shown the situation of Fu, Amo, August, and Aishia. Then, despite being hit by the pair's attacks, Mimo still managed to arrogantly ask Rudo if it ever occurred to him that maybe that kind of talk was exactly why he hasn't been able to return to the sphere. Rudo's eyes widened upon hearing that. Mimo pointed out Rudo's desires, like his wish to return to the sphere and his pursuit of the person who killed his father, and said that they're standing right in front of him, yet he still couldn't see them. So Mimo insisted that Rudo still hasn't turned his dream into reality. It turned out that two individuals had arrived on the scene to help Mimo. One of them seemed capable of generating a shield, while the other, a girl who looked like an imp holding a baseball bat, was the one who launched the projectile at Injin earlier. Mimo then added that they should see how those two would realize their dreams in comparison. Their presence quickly caught Injin's group's attention. Mimo called the male companion Felix and asked what his dream was. With full respect, Felix answered that his dream is to protect him, which made Mimo comment that he's already turned that into reality. He then called his female companion Gil and asked her the same question. She said her dream might be to earn money while protecting him, to which he replied that she's right, and she's already making that dream a reality. Next, he mockingly asked what Rudo's group was like in comparison. To Zenka's face, he said he was the defective son of a prestigious Nijiku family, and pointed out that he kept seeking strength, but always lost to Jabber Wong, leaving Zenka in disbelief on how he knew this. Then he went after Injin, calling him the stray collector who always meddled in others' business but couldn't even tell them his real name, labeling him a hypocrite shrouded in mystery. After him, it was Rio's turn. He called her Rio Reaper and asked how her father was doing, something that clearly shocked her, but he wasn't done. He turned to Rudo and mercilessly asserted that he couldn't avenge his father's murder, couldn't return to the sphere, and no matter how hard he tried, he wouldn't accomplish anything. He dug into Rudo's very core with pure mockery, calling him a total dunce, and Rudo was absolutely furious. Unable to contain his rage, Rudo tried punching their barrier, but even with all his strength, he couldn't break through. With fury exploding in his eyes, Mimo commented again that nothing could be more ridiculous than this. We were then shown how Felix, by using a letter, could form his powerful shield. Mimo declared that not a single one of them had turned their dreams into reality, and asked if they really thought they could lecture someone who already had. He asked how long they think he's been setting this up. He explained that he has always taken action, always been there. He said he finished all his preparations, so he acted, and through that action, he made his dream a reality. He emphasized that even if his dream to rule was old-fashioned, he still made it come true. As his mic transformed and began glowing, he declared that Mimo the news reporter is no more. Now, before them stood Mimo the ruler. After saying that, he activated his vital instrument by turning its switch and called it a Lenhos. He shouted an order to it to unite the audience, and asked if they could see the 4 people standing before them, which made the crowd focus their eyes on Rudo's group, who instantly sensed something terrible was about to happen. When Rudo's group looked behind them, they saw the wave of people, like a massive tsunami, charging straight at them as Mimo shouted that they were to be killed. Before Rudo and the others could be crushed by the tsunami-like wave of people, the scene suddenly shifted to Goku's perspective, taking us back a few minutes earlier. It showed that he heard Rudo shouting that maybe removing all the chokers from everyone here would be too much work, but if they could just take Mimo's microphone or beat him down, this whole chaos would vanish. His subordinates arrived at the announcer room, and as one of them addressed him as Deputy Captain Nijiku, they asked if they had permission to launch their assault. He explained that their captain, Kyoka, had ordered them to apprehend Mimo. They didn't have enough proof to be involved before, but now, Mimo had removed his mask. He pointed out that Mimo was distracted, making this their best opportunity. However, after carefully observing Mimo and the situation below, Goku refused. He said that if they confronted him now, they'd be forced to fight his dolls, which were innocent humans under control. He added that if the cleaners launched a frontal attack, they would be hit from behind. He began walking out of the room and pointed out that they would engage in unglamorous work. While walking, he spoke to his sister in his thoughts, promising her that he would live up to her expectations and not return the way Zanka had. After that, we returned to the present where shock was written all over the faces of Zanka, Ryo, Injin, and Rudo from Mimo's attack. As the wave of human dolls fell upon them, Mimo screamed at them to kill the group. We then cut to Injin's side, where he was conflicted. If he dodged, all the people rushing at him would be destroyed, but if he didn't, his own group would be wiped out. This made him irritated with Mimo, asking aloud if he was really this devious. Then, unexpectedly, a massive swarm of hands rushed in to intercept Mimo's attack. It turned out to be another wave of human dolls that stopped the assault. Injin and Mimo were both stunned by what happened, and as Mimo watched the scene unfold, he was completely puzzled. It turned out that the one responsible was none other than Amo, who used her scent ability on the humans facing Mimo's dolls. Amo shouted ironically while doing this, saying it wasn't very nice to control people. It was also shown that while she did this, she was being carried on Fu's shoulders, and Rudo and Injin were shocked when they turned and saw the two. Mimo recognized her as Amo Impul and remarked that he hadn't realized Amo had joined the cleaners. On Amo's side, she asked the people she had marked with her scent to just hold on and stand strong for her. One of them responded with a vision of being with his sister, believing he could do it, while an elderly man declared he could do anything for his granddaughter. As Mimo closely observed the scene, he realized that Amo was basically using her powers to make some members of the audience smell something that triggered their urge to help her. He acknowledged that this was exactly how the Watchmen series worked. This quality, he said, was high enough to override his rule power. On the other side, Injin shouted in admiration for Amo, calling her rookie. However, Amo's demeanor suddenly shifted, and she angrily screamed at him not to talk to her like they were friends, leaving Injin speechless. Amo pointed out that if Injin had told them sooner why Rudo came to this place, maybe they could have helped immediately. Injin stammered an excuse and pointed out that he did tell them before they came to remove her choker, and hoped Amo understood that he had saved her from falling under Maimo's control. Still furious, Amo replied that none of that changed the fact that she was left out. So Injin grew irritated as well and clicked his tongue, which annoyed Amo, who yelled at him not to do that. Fu commented that he didn't know anything about it either. Amo suddenly shouted at him to stop just standing there and bring her closer to Rudo. Happily obeying, Fu felt a sense of bliss and remarked in his mind that when Amo gives him orders, it's not half bad. While all of this was happening, Maimo simply observed them, as if evaluating the situation. Suddenly, Rudo charged in and tried to hit him with a flying kick, but he still couldn't break through Felix's barrier, which made him shout out, asking if Maimo could just come out of there. At that moment, Gauntis warned him to back away, startling him and making him look toward Felix. From above them, we saw Gil already in position, ready to swing her bat, with a floating baseball in front of her. Moments later, she struck it hard, sending it flying fast toward Rudo. Fortunately, he managed to dodge, but he was still shocked, while Injin became fixated on the ball. When the ball hit the ground, Rudo didn't expect it to make a U-turn and come back at him for a second strike. Taken by surprise, Rudo failed to react, and the ball landed solidly on his right arm, seemingly breaking it. The intense pain was clear in his eyes, and Maimo immediately commented that he was very particular about his battle party. He pointed out that Felix was for defense and Gil was for ranged fighting. He said both of them were excellent soldiers. He added that Rudo needed his arm to use his powers, but just as he was about to point out that now, with that kind of arm, Rudo wouldn't be able to, Rudo suddenly interrupted and ominously asked what exactly was wrong with his hand, saying it was just a fracture while gripping it tightly. That remark caught Maimo's attention, and Rudo explained that he was already used to feeling pain in his arms. By the way, he added, Maimo talked way too much, and because of that, he figured out Maimo had no close-range fighter. That, he said, was Maimo's weakness. They locked eyes after he said that. In Gil's mind, she explained that they didn't really need one. For now, she said they could make up for it using her human puppets. Besides, Felix's shield was invincible, but no one knew that, so they kept trying to break it. Meanwhile, she could just keep hitting her balls toward the enemies, and proudly said that was her job. As she got ready to launch another fastball, she didn't expect Injin to jump up and beat her to it. Injin pointed out to the girl that at least she wasn't using her bat to hit people, and as he activated his Jinki, he said he had to give her props for that. After saying that, he tried to strike her with a downward thrust, which ended up destroying a large part of the stage's backdrop. Unfortunately, Gil dodged the attack and landed on the stage rails, questioning the irony of Injin using an umbrella as a weapon. If that's the case, she said, then let's begin, and all of them, she added, were about to get hit with her pitch. Gil dug into her inventory embedded in her headgear and pulled out 4 baseballs. After tossing them into the air, she hit all 4 at once with a single swing. The balls flew straight toward Injin's group. However, Zenka immediately noticed. With a smooth combo using his love stick, he precisely struck them all back in Gil's direction. The balls flew around her from every angle, astonishing Maimo and catching the girl completely off guard. Zenka pointed out that Maimo wasn't exactly wrong to call him the defective son of a prestigious family. He said he's just an average Joe, but his genius of a sister really put him through the ringer, and that was incredibly tough. Maimo would never know, but that girl used to force him to dodge live gunfire. Gil was taken aback hearing this, and as Zenka raised his staff, he said he hoped all their bullet-dodging games back then would finally pay off. Rio wasn't far behind and moved in quickly. She commented that in that case, she would handle the barrier. She swiftly reached Felix's side and caught his attention by remarking with mock curiosity that it looked like he was making the barrier with paper, and that scissors might easily cut through it. Felix felt a chill and turned to her in shock, clearly disturbed by how she managed to get there unnoticed. Back on Injin's side, he remarked that in that case, he'd just back up Amo, since Amo hated being left out. That left Felix even more bewildered by what was going on. Amo then shouted back at Injin, asking how dare he give her that kind of attitude. She never asked for his help, while Fu stood there blankly, feeling oddly at ease. Felix couldn't believe it and asked himself what in the world was wrong with the people they were up against right now. One of their friends' arms was literally broken. He explained that usually, the moment someone even slaps his Lord Mimo, his vision darkens and his blood boils instantly. But with the kind of reactions and movements Rudo's group was showing, he was left wondering why none of them seemed the least bit bothered by Rudo's injury. He stared in growing concern at the utterly unnerving nature of the cleaners and silently commented to himself, while addressing Mimo in his mind, that he might have chosen the wrong bear to poke. While all of this was happening, there were a few individuals who appeared unaffected by Mimo's trick, and from the seats of the venue, one of them began taking pictures of those people, while his companion remarked that so these were the cleaners. He said he didn't expect them to be so scrawny, to which the one taking photos replied that it would be better not to underestimate the cleaners. He explained that those people were the ones handling trash beasts every day, creatures they still knew nothing about. From the cleaners' point of view, he added, he was sure that mere humans must look like insignificant specks. And believe it or not, he said, the cleaners were still holding back because they didn't want to kill anyone and wanted to preserve their humanity. But as this individual stared at Rio, he said, all except for that girl. On Rio's side, while she was poking Felix's barrier, she was amazed, saying that she was already standing right in front of him, yet he still wasn't fighting back or doing anything. She remarked that this must be the only power this man had, causing Felix to furrow his brows. Rio then readied her ripper and asked how many times she would need to cut through it before breaking past, adding that it looked like she had time now to experiment. Mimo then explained to us that a carta, or letter, is the embodiment of one's thoughts. He said the sender chooses the perfect paper for the recipient, writes it with their own hand, and personally brings it to the post office to send it, carrying a heart full of emotion. He pointed out that this was Felix's vital instrument, the carta, and mentioned that it was ironclad. He further added that if the letter came from a loved one, the thoughts contained within it would become even more unshakable. And now, Rio was trying to cut through those very thoughts to break through. Mimo grinned with malicious intent and asked if that was all right with Rudo, as if suggesting that Felix's thing was important and shouldn't be destroyed. But because of the rage and hatred building up inside Rudo, he ominously told Rio to go ahead and cut that defender guy to pieces, but to leave Mimo to him. Rudo prepared himself, planting his feet apart for a fast charge, and as his aura flared, he declared seriously that he wanted to deal with that man himself. Because of that, Mimo shouted that he too was just as heartless as the others, all while continuing to send wave after wave of mindless people toward them. While this was going on, let's turn our attention to the standoff between Zanka and Gil. Gil quickly climbed the stairs of the seating area to distance herself from Zanka, who in turn tried to strike her with a powerful swing from his love stick, destroying part of the staircase she was running on, but she still managed to jump away and dodge it. Amused, she commented that this chase felt like a game of tag, while Zanka kept his eyes locked on her. As she ran, Gil noticed that Zanka wanted to get close since she was a ranged fighter. Teasingly, and as she picked up speed, she said, well, he might not know it, but she was fast too. Zanka replied sarcastically, that's so, as he prepared to throw his vital instrument. After winding up, he hurled it forcefully at Gil, but just as it was about to reach her, she noticed and managed to deflect it with her baseball bat. Even so, Zanka's pursuit didn't end there. When Zanka's love stick flew upward, he quickly chased after it. Gil looked back at him, and as their eyes met, Zanka caught the love stick and commented that it seems that her bat didn't just randomly alter anything it hit. She stopped and glanced at her bat, then answered that Zanka was right. She said her vital instrument, the Gil Moreau, could only turn balls into breaking balls. Smiling, she added that she hadn't tested it out yet, but wondered what would happen if she hit a guy in those balls, which made Zanka recoil with a disgusted expression. Because of his reaction, she asked if that made him lose his balls. While this was happening, let's return to the situation on stage, where Amo was cheering on the people she had controlled with her scent to face Mimo's human tsunami. She acted like a cheerleader while shouting the words "Go, go, fight, fight," while Injin, caught off guard, asked what on earth was going on and commented that Amo was quite the force. Amo pointed out to him that what she was seeing here was love, and she explained that love is a magical thing that gives people power. To this, Injin remarked that in a way, that sounded insane. Maimo listened to their conversation, and because of that, it seemed he thought of something to do. He suddenly asked Amo, addressing her by her full name, if she had felt love from Rudo when he was raining down fists of fury on her, something that made Rudo's body tremble and caused Amo to fall silent. He pointed out that Amo once bared her fangs at the cleaners and even took a punch from Rudo. And now, he added, she's gotten into her head that she wants to help Rudo. After saying that, he asked if it was really because she liked Rudo, or if he was merely a replacement for her mister. Then, he urged Amo to think back and remember the pain of that unfair beating she had suffered and told her that she had done nothing wrong. She was only trying to defend herself. He tried to twist her thinking by painting the cleaners as the villains, saying they want to make her think she was the bad guy so they can take advantage of her Watchmen series shoes. And perhaps, he said, she was merely trying to relive her past. Was she really willing to fight for those people after everything? However, to Maimo's surprise, Amo responded that she doesn't mind and that she and Rudo had already made up, which left the man speechless. She explained that both she and Rudo had done wrong, so they apologized to each other. She added that in the past, all she had ever known were cold hands. But Rudo was the very first person to touch her with warm hands, as she recalled the time they spoke in the HQ infirmary. In a proud and confident tone, she declared that Rudo's hands made her world bigger. Rudo looked at her with admiration and surprise at everything she said, and Amo continued by saying that she would stay in an environment where Rudo was and would learn more about the sense of the world outside. If that was the case, Maimo said, then let him teach her how their world devours ignorant beings who have only just emerged from their cages and gobble them up. As he said this, he reopened his microphone, and backstage, we were shown the twins and the other givers who had participated in the doll show earlier, now seemingly under Maimo's control as well. In the next scene, we return to a point in time where Corvus was talking to Amo. After hearing what she said, Corvus commented that he understood she wanted to reform herself to make amends, and remarked that that alone was a good enough reason to join the cleaners. This made Amo ask if Corvus truly thought her reason wasn't shallow compared to the others who were there, to which Corvus answered not at all, and explained that some of the others were there simply to have a place where they belonged. But he added that anyone can just be there. So, he decided to give her a job. Amo paused at that, and said she didn't want to fight. So Corvus informed her that fighting trash beasts wasn't the only way a giver could contribute. He looked at Amo and eventually pointed out that her power was smell. He also asked if he was right in thinking that Amo could recreate a scent from a moment she had experienced, make someone smell it, and her power would then make that person recall similar memories. Amo answered yes and explained that she was especially good at triggering memories that made people feel like they were in love or reminded them of being with someone they cared about, but added that not once did anyone ever look very happy when affected by it. Because of that, Corvus decided that in that case, she should become a healer, which confused Amo. Corvus commented that he's guessing she was a very sensitive person and pointed out that sensitive people are able to willingly absorb their experiences. He said he believed she could be someone who could use her experiences to comfort others and lift their spirits. After that, we returned to the present, where Maimo was pointing out, while Injin and the rest were being surrounded by a massive number of human puppets, that this is where lack of experience leads. Fear and anxiety were evident on Amo's face as she experienced this. Maimo said her vital instrument and powers were indeed highly exceptional, but asked if it was true she lacked the supply of sense or experiences needed to actually use those powers. He then asked if she think every person there has someone that they'd want to protect. He pointed out that she was an ignorant little girl who had spent nearly a decade locked up in a tower, and mockingly asked if she really thought she could use her experiences to motivate others. He also pointed out that with no real experience, her power was virtually a pearl before swine, whereas in his case, he had refined his words to fully control the masses, so it was impossible for her to expect to defeat him. The thousands of people surrounding them began to rush forward again, while Maimo shouted at her, welcoming her to the real world. Horror spread across Amo's face as it happened, and it didn't take long before they were completely swallowed up by the countless mindless dolls, which made Rudo scream out in concern and worry for Amo. Maimo then called out to Rio and Rudo and said that frankly, he was sick of them. He spoke into his mic and summoned the puppeteer performers of the doll festival, ordering them to kill Rudo and Rio, saying they have opposed him. In an instant, the vital instruments of the puppeteer performers emerged from backstage and all charged at the two of them. The shock in Rudo's eyes was clear upon seeing it, while Mimo told them that if they wanted to beat him, they'd first have to defeat those people. But to do that, he said, they'd have to harm the treasures of those innocent people, and truthfully, he was certain they wouldn't be able to avoid it. When Rudo turned to one of the puppeteer performers charging at them, he saw that it was the young girl who had lost her parents, which deeply shocked him. After that, Mimo let out a deep breath and joyfully said that he loved the view from the top of his pedestal. On Amo's side, it turned out that they were saved by Engine, who jumped high and glided using his umbrella. However, because of that, several innocent civilians were crushed as their bodies collided with each other, which made Engine feel guilty. As they glided toward a safe area, he frustratingly said that they didn't want them to get hurt, while Amo in his arms began to feel overwhelmed by negative emotions. After dropping them off at their previous vantage point, where they had been watching, he ordered Fu to take Amo somewhere safer and not let her get caught, where Fu cheerfully bowed and thanked him for the parade of orders. However, it seemed Amo no longer had the will to move, and Mimo's words began to echo in her mind. She started to ask herself, while recalling Corvus's words, saying he believed she could be someone who used her experiences to comfort and uplift others, if she could really become that kind of person. Mimo's words echoed as well, that she was an ignorant little girl who spent nearly a decade locked in a tower, and asked if she really thought she could use her experiences to motivate others. She admitted she couldn't argue with that mean man. Slowly, she began to feel down and wondered if her situation was worse than she imagined, and if she was truly useless. Suddenly, Engine responded bluntly and said yes, that she was useless, which completely shocked her. He pointed out that he agreed with what Mimo said, and that it was spot on. Amo gripped her boots tightly from what she was hearing, and Engine added that she should just sit there, accept everything that had been said, and melt into a puddle of tears. If that happened, he said, she'd finally experience discouragement. Upon hearing that, Amo immediately shifted her perspective on what Engine said and realized what he meant by it. As he left her behind, Engine added that if it was all too much for her, then she should stand up and prove to him how wrong he was for calling her useless. If she could do that, he said, then she would experience vindication. After Engine left, we cut to Rio and Rudo's situation, where they were still being relentlessly chased by the vital instruments of the puppeteer performers. As he ran and looked at them, Rudo thought to himself that he couldn't just destroy other people's vital instruments so easily. He thought that if he had to neutralize them, he would need to break their chokers. Rio noticed something among their pursuers and nervously commented that she had forgotten those people were also wearing chokers. It turned out that what she saw was the twin members of the South Branch Cleaners, now also under Mimo's control. Excited, Mimo asked the two of them if they could neutralize their own friends, while calling them the Twin Cleaners.